why people don't know anything basically about water conservation and water quality. They did put out taptips.ie, which was just a website, but then again, people can always argue that not everyone has the internet, and you don't normally find things on the internet unless you go looking for it. So they're going to argue that they've told everyone we need to conserve and how to conserve, and in fact that's not true. They might have aimed at that business and geared at that business, but they haven't done so for householders. I know that, you know, from my own experience, nothing landed on my doorstep telling me how to conserve water. So just to look at where the department over the years, there was one statement that jumped out at me in 2006. It says overall welfare can be increased by government policies that alter the allocation of resources in a way that reflects the value people place on the environment. And when I looked at that, I said the value people place. So they talk about value on the environment. The value that they're talking about at the moment is putting water meters and putting water charges to get you to conserve water. However, when you look at other programs in other areas, like drink driving, the smoking ban, what they have done, they haven't put a meter on smoking, they haven't put a meter on people going driving their car when they're drunk. What they've done is they've created a stigma by way of cute advertising and marketing to get it out there into the public, in your face. And that stigma would be, say, if you're a smoker, you might walk into a house party. Years ago, you might walk in and have a cigarette, and you know, people wouldn't say anything to you. Now you walk into a house and have a cigarette, normally go outside the back door or something. People who you see in the pub and they get into the car after a few pints, that's frowned upon now. And the same can be done, I believe, for water charges. And the campaigns that were put out there today were just not sufficient to create that stigma to stop people from, you know, if you walk into someone's house and see a guy running a tap for 10 minutes to just get his water cold for a glass of water, you know, create a stigma against that to show that, you know, it's not acceptable, it's not a nice thing to do, it's a waste. Think about the environment. The other thing I just want to talk about is water metering for use as conservation. Other countries have water meters, and they talk about it's good for conservation. It'll make you use less water. Maybe it will initially, but overall we can see from examples like in the UK where they have meters, they have tax, yet they're using the same amount of water every day in their homes that we are, and we don't have tax. So that just doesn't stand up. The second example I looked at there was in Denmark. Denmark have water charges that are going up and up and up over the years, and it showed between 2000 and 2003 the water tax went up, yet the amount of water people used also went up. So it just doesn't stand up that it's going to make you conserve water in the long term. Just to run through some basic conservation measures. They are available on taptips.ie, and there are simple things like turn off your taps when you're brushing your teeth, turn off your taps when you're having a shave or whatever. These are very simple things, and a lot of it's just common sense that you can use, and the information is there if you go and look for it. But again, as I said, nothing has come to my doorstep, which means I don't know about it. One of the vital things I just want to talk about is what's going on in industry at the moment, where I work at, and that is that I've seen a lot of influence from big business towards the water area and water conservation. And in October 2009, there was what was called the third National Water Summit, and it was mostly big business with some politicians and a few government departments, EPA and that attended. But the thing that struck me was there was no community organisations, there was no individual members of the public that could walk in to Cork Park and show their voice. And basically, from what I found from that was that big business in relation to water supply is pushing the government. They're pushing the government to privatise water, and we can see that from the fact that we have companies in Ireland like Bordamona that actually own 80% of the water supply in the state of Virginia and the USA. We have companies like Veolia, which are a French company, formerly a state-backed company that run the water supply in numerous countries. And what we're seeing is that these companies, which are primarily based in other areas of the environmental sector, which are now reduced because of the economy or pushing to get in at water. And when I just, on a side note to that, what I noticed was that you had the water summit was advertised in the Sunday Business Post, so that the water and the environmental area of our country is basically being decided upon by businesses and not by community organisations and engagement with the public. So there's myths used by government and industry that charging will provide the infrastructure, and that's simply not true, because what you have in the UK, you still have charges, you still have meters in the homes and all that, but the leakage rate is still there around between 20 and 30%. So it just doesn't stand up. So to conclude, like I said, water quality and the infrastructure is linked, so we have to tackle the quality issue first, which means the implementation of the River Basin District ideals of the Water Framework Directive. And in the Water Framework Directive, they've divided the country up into river basin districts, and these river basin districts are used then to go in and protect water. But what they haven't done is done the same to the water supply network, which is based the water supply network on these river basin districts. And what they've done is just council, that's one council, that's another council's area. Whereas the river basin approach would mean that they conserve water and protect water and make it more economic to treat the water. The cleaner the water is, the cheaper it is basically to get it out there, so the cost goes down. Going back to leakage is, a lot of them will tell us that we can fix leaks with water meters. Water meters is a tool to help us locate leaks and pinpoint leaks, which is simply, it's overkill, to say the least. Whereas the technology that's out there at the moment is pretty good. What you have is, just to look at a few, you have step testing, you have data loggers, you've sound bars, listening sticks, visual impact stuff. All that is there without having to use meters. You don't need to put meters in everyone's house to fix all the leaks. And that's a couple of good engineers and a few men to go out and use these devices, can find the leaks and go and fix them. You don't have to put a water meter in everyone's home. If you want to go about pinpointing a leak that it's in someone's home, you can go into their house, put a meter, temporary meter on their tap, and say, right, I'll check the meter on the district water meter up the road, or put a meter on the street. Yeah, we found a leak. It's very simple. It's not. You don't have to go and put a permanent meter in. The purpose of the meter, in my view, is just to commodify the water, but not. It hasn't got any really basic scientific need, to be honest. The most awareness campaigns, as I said before, awareness campaigns have to be improved as well. We need to get information in the door of houses to get people to conserve water, and that's not just putting up a website or a few billboards. That's could be knocking on doors and showing people how to do it. And the other final point I'd like to make is that there is no data, there is no hard data that I can find to prove that the amount of wastage that they're talking about is related entirely to households. There is no data. It's not there. It doesn't exist. So overall, I'd just like to say that we need, what I would like to see as a worker in the environmental sector is a works program, a big works program, just like Michael said, get people out to work, get all these engineers that are out of work, and these qualified people that work so hard over the guns or an hour in the dole, get them out, get them working, and the best way to do that is get the 4 billion, not from water taxes, but get it now, give it to them, and they'll fix your leakage problem, and they'll reduce the amount of water having to be put into the system by about 50%. And that, combined with conservation education, would reduce it by another 10%. So overall, you could have a water supply system within the space of 10 or 15 years that is smaller, leaner and sleeker than the one we have now, without the wastage.
Thanks very much indeed, Maurice, for that. Now